Good morning, students. We have already started major part of the chapter, the enemy. Only the climax is left. So we will continue it. We have already read that Sadao was very fed up of the enemy, and he was now ready to get rid of this man at any cost. So he uh, explained each and everything to the general, and general assured him that he will send assassins, killers, uh, any day, and they will kill the man. But 2-3 days Sadao waited for that. Nobody came, and general suddenly required surgery, and he came to know that general was self-involved and he forgot to send assassins or killers. So Sadao decided to get rid of this man. The young man stared at him, slowly comprehending, thinking. Do I have to? He asked. We have already read in the last lines that Sadao told Tom, the enemy, that he will arrange the material for enemy, and he can get the shelter in Korean boat, and he can stay there for on the island, and do not let the fire. He explained that. So young man here, Tom, the enemy, stared at him. Stared means looking hard, घूर कर देख रहा था, because this thing was unbelievable, that a person who is Japanese and the war is going on, that he will ask him. First he will save the life, and then he will ask him that you can leave safely from this country. And he said that, do I have to? क्या मुझे जाना चाहिए? He asked. I think so, Sadao said gently. Sadao softly said, I think so. You understand, it is not hidden that you are here. Sadao explained that it is not hidden now. ये छिपी बात नहीं है कि तुम यहाँ पर हो. The young man nodded with expression of head. He moved his head in perfect comprehension that he understood the thing. Okay, he said simply. He said, okay. Sadao did not see him again until evening. Until evening, he did not meet the enemy. As soon as it was dark, he had dragged the stout boat down to the shore, and in it he put food and bottled water that he had brought secretly during the day. So when it was dark in the evening, night was about to fall, Sadao arranged a small boat, in a curved shape, and he arranged the matter whatsoever he required, food and bottled water, and he bought these things secretly without telling anybody. He arranged these things, as well as 2 quilts, rajaiyan, he had brought at pawn shop, where you can lend money in exchange of articles left with him. Actually सामान को गिरवी रख कर लिया जा सकता है, और यू मस्ट हैव सीन द दैट यू कैन गिव ओल्ड थिंग्स एंड बाय न्यू थिंग्स. जिस तरह से हम कबाड़ी को पुरानी चीज़ें देते हैं, मनी ले लेते हैं, इन द सेम वे फ्रॉम द पॉन शॉप यू कैन गिव द ओल्ड थिंग्स एंड बाय न्यू थिंग्स. So he arranged 2 quilts. The boat he tied to the post in the water. He tied the boat with the post so that it cannot row automatically with the tide or flow of the water. There was no moon, and he worked without a flashlight. He worked secretly in the dark night, because he wanted that nobody should know these things. When he came in the house, he entered as though he was just came from his work. Normally he behaved normally, and so Hana knew nothing. Yumi was here today. Hana said that Yumi came today. She said that she served as he served his supper. Supper is the last meal of the day, dinner. We can say, though she was so modern, she here means Hana. Did not eat with him. She did not eat with her husband. Yumi cried over the baby. She went on with a sigh. She misses him so. Yumi was crying for baby. She was missing the baby. The servants will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone, Sadao said. Sadao normally answered that as soon as the foreigner will go, servants will automatically come back. He went into the guest room that night before he went to bed himself and checked carefully the American's temperature. As a doctor, he performed his duty. The state of wound and his heart and pulse. The pulse was irregular, but that was perhaps because of excitement. So normal health checkup he had done. The young man's pale lips were pressed together and the eyes burned. Only the scars on the neck were red. So the young man, his lips were pressed together, the हुए थे, and he was in excitement. His scars were red. His injuries were showing red. I realize you are saving my life again, he told Sadao. He here, the enemy, Tom. So he said that again. This is important line. Question can come. Who said, in what context? I realize you are saving my life. Who told and in what context? Explain. Not at all, Sadao said. It is only inconvenient to have you here any longer. Sadao simply explained that no, I am not saving any your life, but you have become inconvenience for us. के कारण हमें बड़ा uncomfortable feel हो रहा. That's why I'm doing this. He had hesitated a good deal about giving the man a flashlight, but he had decided to give it him after all. It was a small one, his own, which he used at night when he was called. So Sadao was not interested to give him to the flashlight. Actually, he was using this flashlight when he was called at the night call. Patients are calling or he had to attend the patients at night, but still he gave the light. He decided to give him. It was food. If your foods, this paragraph is very important. If your food runs out before you catch a boat, he said. Sadao said, if your food is finished before you can get shelter in any Korean boat, signal me 2 flashes at the same instant the sun drops over the horizon. Then signal 2 flashlights, but not in the day or not in the darkness. Otherwise, you will be caught. When the night was above or evening was there. Do not signal in darkness, for it will be seen. If you are all right but still there, signal me once. So they have decided, if the food is there but you cannot get shelter in any boat, then signal me once. You will find fresh fish easy to catch, but you must eat them raw. A fire would be seen. Do not try to light fire on the island, as this will caught the attention of the people and you will be again caught. So you have to eat the fish raw, in raw form. Okay, the young man breathed. He was dressed now in the Japanese clothes which Sadao had given him, and at last moment Sadao wrapped a black cloth about his blonde head. Blonde? Blonde means golden hair. So just to hide his appearance, just to hide that he's American, he arranged traditional Japanese cloths his own and covered it with black cloth. As Americans were more fair than Japanese, not to so that people cannot be in doubt. Now Sadao said. The young American without a word shook Sadao's hand warmly and then walked quite well across the floor and down the step into the darkness and garden once, twice. Sadao saw the light flash to find his way. Then they started their journey from the house to the beach, but they would not be suspected. Once or twice he lighted the flashlight just to see the path. Then he waited till the shore. There was no one more flash. He arranged the boat, and Tom went in that boat, but he stopped there or waited there until he reached the island, an island. Then he closed the partition. That night he slept. Partition, he was observing the person from his, as the chapter begins, we have seen he was standing on his balcony, and then they saw the man. In the same way that when the chapter ends, he was again standing in the balcony, and he was observing that whether he was reached or not. You say the man escaped? The general asked faintly. The general came unconscious after the operation, and he asked that what you are saying, the man has escaped, बच निकलना. तो जनरल कहते हैं कि क्या आप क्या कह रहे हैं कि आदमी का बच कर भाग गया अपने आप. He had operated upon a week before the emergency operation to which Sadao had been called in the night. So in emergency, Sadao had to operate of the general. For 12 hours, Sadao had not been sure the general would live. The gallbladder was much involved. There was surgery of gallbladder. Even Dr. Sadao was not sure that he will live or not. General will live or not. Then the old man had begun to breathe deeply again and demand food. Then again he came to conscious, and he was now regaining his health. दोबारा ठीक होने लगा. Sadao had not been able to ask about assistance due to general's condition. Sadao was not able to inquire about the assassin. So far as he knew, they had never come. जहाँ तक सदाओ को पता था वो आए ही नहीं थे. The servants had returned, and Yumi cleaned the guest room thoroughly and had burnt sulfur in it, get the white man smell out of it. जैसे ही श्योर हुआ सर्वेंट्स को that foreigner had left their house, they came back, and Yumi cleaned the room properly with sulfur so that even smell cannot come from that room. Nobody said anything. Nobody discussed about this, even servants or masters. Only the gardener was cross. Only the gardener was angry. Why? Because he had got behind with the chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums, flowers, because his vegetation suffered that. The flowers needs his attention. But after a week, Sadao felt General was well enough to be spoken about the prisoner. After a week, Sadao feel comfortable, and General was also in a good health, so he discussed that. Yes, Excellency, he escaped. Sadao now said. He coughed, signifying that he had not said all he might have said, but was unwilling to disturb the general further. But the old man opened his eyes suddenly. Sadao explained that he had escaped. Then Sadao became suddenly silent, just to show that he was not willing to disturb the general. But suddenly the old man opened his eyes. That prisoner, he said that with some energy. Did I not promise you that I would kill him for you? He inquired. General inquired that I have not promised कि मैं आपके लिए इसको किल करवा दूँगा, मरवा दूँगा. You did, Excellency, Sadao said. क्या आपने कहा था? Well, the old man said in a tone of amazement. He was surprised. So I did, but see, I was suffering a good deal. मैंने करवा दिया होता, बट आप देख रहे हो ना कि मैं किस हालत से गुजर रहा हूँ. द ट्रूथ इज़ आई थॉट ऑफ नथिंग बट माई सेल्फ, बट रियलिटी इज़ आई वॉज सेल्फ इन्वॉल्व, सेल्फ conscious. In short, I forgot my promise to you. And General cleared that he had not sent assassins due to his health. He was only self-involved. I wondered, Your Excellency, Sadao murmured. Murmured is not clearly spoken words. He said that, Maharaj, मैं हैरान था that you have promised. I was certainly very careless of me. It was certainly very careless of me, the general said. Now general is giving his clarification because it will ruin the image of general that he had. Now the ball is in the court of general. Up Sadao safe side pe because Sadao had informed, but the general had not taken the action. But you understand, it was not the lack of patriotism. Now Sadao general is giving his explanation कि आप समझ सकते हो कि मेरी देशभक्ति में कमी नहीं थी और डेरिलिक्शन ऑफ ड्यूटी ना ही मेरे कर्तव्यों में कोई कमी थी. ही लुक्ड एंक्शियसली एट हिज डॉक्टर और वो बड़ी उत्सुकता से डॉक्टर को देख रहा था. इफ़ द मैटर शुड कम आउट यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड वुडंट यू. नाउ द जनरल सेड कि अगर बात बाहर निकल जाती है तो आप समझ रहे हैं ना कि आपको क्या कहना, जनरल पर बात ना आए. अब सदाओ को समझ में आ गई कि अब जनरल उसकी मुट्ठी में है. Certainly, Your Excellency, Sadao said. He suddenly comprehended. Sadao suddenly thought that the general was in the palm of his hands and as a consequence, he himself was perfectly safe. Now, Sadao is absolutely safe. I can swear to your loyalty, Excellency. Maharaj, मैं वफादारी की कसम खाता हूँ. He said to me, the old man जनरल, एंड टू योर ज़ील अगेंस्ट द एनिमी, कि आपने जो एनिमी के प्रति उत्साह दिखाया. यू आर अ गुड मैन, द जनरल मर्मर्ड एंड क्लोज हिज आइज. यू विल बी रिवार्डेड. आपको इनाम दिलाया जाएगा, आपको सम्मानित कराया जाएगा, क्योंकि उसने जनरल को ऑपरेशन किया. नाउ जस्ट टू सेव हिमसेल्फ जनरल विल रिवॉर्ड हिम. बट सदाओ सर्चिंग द स्पॉट ऑफ ब्लैक इन द ट्वाइलाइटेड सी दैट नाइट. लेकिन उस रात सदाओ क्या कर रहा था, सिर्फ उस लाइट को ढूंढ रहा था कि वेदर द एनिमी गॉट द कोरियन बोट और नॉट, और ही वॉज ऑन द even on the island. This was his reward. There was no prick of light in the dusk. In the evening, dusk is the when two times are meeting, evening is there, but there was no light. No one was on the island. Nobody was seen there. The prisoner was gone, safe, doubtless. चला गया है, safe था. And he had warned him to wait only for the Korean fishing boat. और उसको ऑलरेडी इन्फॉर्म कर दिया था कि कोरियन फिशिंग बोट को में ही शेल्टर लेगा. ही स्टूड एट अ मोमेंट ऑन अ वरांडा गेजिंग आउट द सी वेयर वेंस द यंग मैन हैड कम द अदर नाइट. नाउ अगेन ही वॉज स्टैंडिंग देयर एंड he was recalling that night when this man came, and into his mind, although without reason, there came other white faces he had known. Now he is recalling all the members of America with whom he had spent time when he was studying there. The professor at whose house he had met Hannah. A dull man and his wife had been silly talkative women in spite of her wish to be kind. Their wish was very kind with the foreign students, but Sadao was feeling bored. He remembered as his old teacher of anatomy who had been so insistent on mercy with the knife, and then he remembered his face of his flat slatternly landlady. Now he is recalling all the person, the teacher teacher of anatomy who was stressing more on kindness with the knife. Then he remembered the face of landlady who had great difficulty in finding the place to live in America because he was Japanese. It is very difficult when you are going to some another country. It is difficult to get the residence. So Sadao felt very difficult when he was searching shelter there. So finally that fat lady slatternly, very sharp, चतुर चालाक सी लेडी थी, उसके घर में शेल्टर मिल गया. Because he was Japanese, nobody was interested to give the house to a foreigner. The American was full of prejudice and it had been bitter to live in it. knowing himself their superior. There was a thinking among the Americans, because they are thinking that they are superiors, they are better than these people. And so that's why a bitter line was there, एक कड़वाहट भरी रहती थी उनके बीच में. So they were not, Americans were not attending the Japanese at that time when the war was not going on in a good manner. How he had despised hate, how he hated that ignorant and dirty old woman who had at last consented to house him in her miserable home. So he hated that lady, but and in the end she was ready to give the house on rent. He had once tried to be grateful, but for once he is very thankful to that lady, to landlady, to her, because she had in his last year nursed him care. In the last year of his studies, that lady cared him. Why? To her, because she had nursed him through influenza. Influenza is the disease of cold, cough, and fever. But it was difficult, for she was no less repulsive. But this doesn't mean that she was not feeling hatred. She was feeling hatred. She cared, but with hate she cared to him in her kindness. In her kindness there was hatred. Now he remembered the youthful, haggard face of the prisoner. Now he recalled the um, looking very haggard, means looking very tired face of that young man, the enemy Tom, white and repulsive, who was full of hatred. Strange, he thought. I wonder why I could not kill him. Now Sadao was thinking, I don't know why I have saved this man. So, dear students, we have read the chapter, and in the next lecture we will discuss the questions. Thank you. Have a nice day.